Hello, everyone, and welcome to Cosmere Connections. We're a collective of book-loving nerds rereading Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere series. From book 1 to book 16 million, we'll be uncovering every secret connection there's to find. Today, we are joined by Swiggity Swoo,
Yesterday, you said tomorrow.
John,
That's still a lot of books.
and Kay.
Yes, the three religions mind, love, and domination.
And I'm ReaderWarrior, and today we're going to be covering Elantris Part 1, Shadow of Elantris, chapters 14 through 18.
Okay, I guess I'll get into it with chapter 14. I chose this chapter entirely because it was a ball chapter, and I felt like I needed to.
I knew it!
Nostalgia!
I knew it!
Here we go again.
Welcome back, Kay.
I was even reading, I'm like, wait a second. This is a ball
Oh.
chapter.
I just felt like I had to, just for, old time's sake. But it does not start off as a ball chapter. So in this chapter, we start off with Serene, who is she's finally admitted to herself that she needs to go talk to the women, of court. So she humbles herself. Part of the reason she didn't want to go talk to them is because she was so focused on the political aspects of Iodon's court and like the more obvious political aspects, and wasn't really thinking about the women very much. She was doing the same thing that the men do, where she was just ignoring them. But also she didn't want to go because she's really bad at embroidering, and she didn't want to admit the fact that she's bad at embroidering in front of all these women. So she tried to not go because she didn't want to show how bad she was at it. She's awful.
Hey, I imagine this is the same fear I have, that anyone at any point might ask me to go play golf with them. If it saves the kingdom, I will go. That is the only reason.
The fate of Elantris relies on you and your 9-iron.
I relate to this.
You gotta get a 2 over par. I gotta get a hit and a whip.
So she decides to go. So it is the Queen's embroidery circle. Which honestly, as someone who goes to a knitting group once a week, it is honestly the best source of gossip. Just saying. If you want to know what's going on, you sit with a bunch of women as they're doing some sort of craft, and you will know everything that's going on around you.
With the number of female friends who are all knitters / crocheters / painters / crafty types, I can attest to that. It is true. They call it delicious tea.
Yeah, I was gonna say, come for the craft, stay for the tea.
Yep.
We jokingly call our group the Stitchin' Bitch.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
That's what they call their knitting parties, the Stitch and Bitch.
Yep. It's fun. But so as Serene goes to her version of this,
I wish these chapters had names.
and so she
Chapter 15, Stitch and Bitch.
first of all, one of the gossips is the fact that Shooted is the most eligible bachelor, which I just think is funny. And that all of the women are obsessed with him.
Right.
But also they start talking. That's just a side note. I just think it's funny. This is also
Handsome
in
men are
this,
fun.
they talk about the fact that they ask Serene what she did for fun, because she mentions that she does not like embroidery. They can tell that she's bad at it, so they're like, what do you TO'd women do for fun? And this is definitely a leading conversation, very leading question. And she's like, oh, I like people women, like some do like knitting and like embroidery like you guys are doing, but women are also like welcome to participate in court. And then they're like, but like let's be honest, like do you stab each other for fun? She's like yes, but it's called fencing. And it is for our enjoyment, not for men's enjoyment. Like we do it for our own exercise and our own entertainment.
But let's
And
be honest here, the men probably enjoy it too.
yeah, but she, all of the women seem like really excited about, really interested in the concept of fencing, and she convinces all of them to uh, start a fencing club, essentially. So that she's going to teach them all fencing, and that part of the reason that she gets them to agree to this is because Iadon has is of the mind that men should not fight. If you're like a nobleman, you shouldn't fight. So none of the noblemen besides uh
The one.
Warren?
Iadon, I
Aiden?
Iadel,
Aiden?
something like that.
Wow.
Indo?
This is
Whatever.
really sad.
There's so many names. It sounds so simple. The one who
Yeah.
has the military, he knows how to fight, and Shuden knows how to fight. And those are essentially the only two, and Rayoden also knew how to fight. Those are the only ones who, in the court, who knew how to fight. And so Sereni convinces the women that this would be something that's okay to do because, after all, like, it's not a men's pastime. We're just simple women. So he couldn't have any objection in this because it's not like we're taking over something that the men do. And
Eondel.
Eondel. I knew it started with an E. Like,
I think it's
yeah.
funny that, like, in a roundabout way, fighting has become sort of a feminine art. Like, there's like in the book so far, like embroidery is a feminine art, and like painting seems like it is too. And then you have fencing.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I love the comment when they're talking about how cold it gets in Teod, and she casually mentions that the trees explode.
No, they were asking about. They were not. This wasn't what. I don't think Sereni mentioned that the trees explode. I think it was one of the
No, it was
other.
Queen
E,
Asudan. Or
not Asudan. Wrong book.
I did that again. I know I did that before too.
Ishin.
Yeah.
She mentions that the trees in Fjordell explode
Ah, yeah.
sometimes when it gets too cold.
It's made to make wood chips, I suppose. I wonder if
Yeah,
they
Which
do
is
that
still
there.
kind of terrifying.
It's during one of her just ramblings that she mentions that.
Did you guys know there's an actual exploding tree that sends spikes out ridiculously far,
I've
and
heard of
that's how it
that.
spreads seeds?
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
It was on a
I did
Zayfrank
not know
It's
video.
that.
They're fine.
Tangents.
Imagine hearing a gunshot and then you just get penetrated by like seeds. Shut up.
That sounds like something that would be on in Roshar.
Kinda.
But the way like this
Or
is where it
Teldane.
just sounds like
Okay, so let's focus back to Cell. And she's talking to Ash about what he has discovered so far about the Elantrians. So, he tried to talk to some of the Elantrians in the city. They wouldn't respond to him other than to ask him for food. He also tried to talk to some of the Seons that are in Elantris, and they wouldn't respond to him either. They were unable to respond, so he was able to he got his information from one of the wall guards. And what the wall guards tell him about the Elantrians is that when the Shaod takes them, they forget who they are and they kind of go feral. And it also says that the city that Elantris is run by a number of gangs, that that attack anyone who has food, who comes into the city. And this is when Serene finds out that the people of Elantris are not being fed. They are not given any food. Well,
Which is kind of a big deal for those guys.
mm-hmm.
I imagine like somebody's kind-hearted as she, and like being told, "Hey, these people that are, moving and alive in that sense, aren't being given any substance," would be like, "What?"
Yeah. So she eventually does decide on a dress. And she's done with black. She decides to throw out all her black dresses that she has because she hates the color black. And she picks a dress that is kind of black. It's like sort of black. It's a gold dress
Got a
with
black
black.
cape.
It's black lace over a gold dress with a black cape. So it's like just like it's not black, but it's like a little bit of black. Like you could kind of count it as morning attire. Air quotes. Air quotes.
Is it
Serene is very stretching the definition of morning attire right now.
Is it an easy line to draw of like as they're cleaning up the city of Elantris, getting rid of like the black sludge? She's getting like rid of the black dresses at the same time as kind of like this building of like the kindling of hope.
You are so good at this shit. What the hell?
It's Cosmere Connection.
I like that. I had never thought about that, but I like that.
Yeah.
So.
And then you got Harithan realizing he's got to get rid of Deloff.
Yep. Everyone's throwing out old things.
Oh.
They don't need anymore. So
Dresses, preconceived notions, annoying priests with too much zeal.
Sludge.
People who've been affected by the shade.
So she goes to the ball, and Shuden is the one who is taking her to the ball. So Shuden is from Jindo, which is the original country. Is the country that originated the
shoe
religion. So it started with Shu Kiseg, and then Kiseg had two disciples. Thank you. I couldn't think of the word. Students, disciples, whatever. Korath and Direth. And they went up north and created the branching of Shu Kiseg, which is Shu Korath and Shu Direth. So just a little bit of information in this chapter about the different religions that we get. And we learn that Shu Kiseg teaches, all of the Shu religions teach about unity. So Shu Kiseg teaches about unity of mind, is what they focus on with unity. Shu Korath teaches about unity through love. And then Shu Direth teaches of unity through domination. Through control, essentially.
Whoa.
So, different types of unity, as you think about it. So, she goes to the ball with Shuden, and he is like very thankful that she's there with him, because he's like, thank God all of these women will not be on my back tonight, because they won't know who you are, and they'll stay away from me because of that. And so they end up going to so every time that someone holds a ball in the city, they have a separate room, a separate party for the king, that has a separate band playing. That's only the dukes and the well-placed counts are allowed to go to this party, to this like exclusive area of the ball. Shuden's allowed to because he was able to somehow bully Iadon into giving him his title, so he's allowed to come in. It's kind of iffy on the details there. Don't really know what happened there, but he's allowed there.
Don't need to know.
But
At
more
least for a
importantly,
meanwhile.
yeah. But more importantly, he's allowed in there because he's with Sereni, who is the princess, who is higher ranked than almost everyone else in the room. Oh, so they
For
go
two.
into the room and they see that Hrathen is there. And Sereni finds out that Hrathen has been going to every ball for the past week and a half, and she's like, "Oh my god, like he's got a week and a half head start on me. Like, what the heck?" Oh, and she gets called over by Ishin, who is talking to Iadon, and Sereni is able to convince Iadon, using her dumb blonde act, that they should be that the women should be allowed to do fencing. It's very entertaining. Her dumb blonde act is really funny, but it also bites her in the butt, this book,
But
this
you don't
chapter.
want us to get fat, do you?
Yeah.
You want us to look pretty.
Yeah.
Just eat less food.
Oh,
Yep.
that response makes my skin crawl.
This also, her dumb blonde act also does bite her in the butt in this chapter, because after she finishes talking with Iadon and Ishin, a runner comes into the room and whispers something in Iadon's ear. And at first he's like, "I can't hear you, just spit it out, like say it out loud." But before the runner can say anything, Hrathen says that that people need to be careful that about something about like ears that might be confused.
Oh yeah, it's super condescending.
Yeah, super condescending.
It's like saying like she won't
Basically,
even
you don't need
understand
to
it.
speak about things
So
when dumb belongs in the air.
why give her the
Yeah.
privilege of even hearing it? She won't even understand it.
Oh, here it is. I wouldn't have thought that the king would discuss important matters where the dull-minded can hear. Such people tend to be so confused by events that it is a disservice to allow them the opportunity. And Sereni's a little outraged that he did this. She's very upset at him. She's like, "Dang it, like my own like
I can't
Voices
pretend to
in
know
her
any
mind
of those
hit
words.
hard.
yeah, he used my own act against me."
Dick.
So she doesn't get to hear what Iadon is told. But she decides to not let it bother her too much. She decides to instead use the time at the party to go around and get to know everyone, to get to know all the nobles. So she makes Shuden walk her around to meet every single person in the party. Also, this is a party, I forgot to mention this earlier, but this is a party that is hosted by Duke Telri, who, as we know from the previous Hrathen chapter, is one of the dukes that went to Hrathen's meeting. And Hrathen he is definitely working with Hrathen
Oh yeah.
to, and for some reason Hrathen is giving him money, and it is clear that this party is being used to show off how much money he has.
That was like his. That was his plan, right? Like last week, Rathan kept hinting at some big plan, and it was basically just to give that guy money.
And
No, that's part of the plan.
Yes.
Partially, yes. The other part of the plan comes in later in this section of chapters. So I'll wait. I won't spoil it for.
Okay.
Yep.
The person whose chapter that is.
Probably mine.
No, it's mine.
So, and
Okay.
at the end of this chapter, as Sereni goes back to the palace after dragging Shuden all around the ball, and he was so tired, he was like, "I'm so glad I'm not having to do this time." He was like, "I'm glad that someone else will have to walk you around the ball next time, because I'm tired." Is that she gets back to the palace and she learns that there was a break-in, that someone snuck through the king's own private chambers to get into the palace.
Which we know who that is.
Yep,
Zombies.
we know who that is.
Zombies.
Yep, the zombies.
Zeth Son Valado. Now it was
Okay.
Raoden, right? And
Yeah,
what's her
With
name? Karada?
Karada.
Yeah.
Karada.
Yeah.
That would start with an R.
Okay, that's all I had for this chapter.
Okay, I got a few details that I thought were cool. One is when they first show up and they notice like all the fires that are different colors, sent me on a little bit of a dive where I looked into what things could be burning, and it specifically says burns faster than coal. And I basically narrowed it down to it during semi-medieval time. It could have been phosphorus, which was not isolated until 17th century, by a German alchemist Hennig Brand. It would have been unknown and unobtainable in medieval times, but I figured we're giving it a little oomph due to magical yada yadas. Or it could have been metal salts of strontium or copper. Now, copper was known in medieval times, but the specific green flame associated in copper salts would have been rare, since refining and isolating it would have been a complex process.
Could also be like the magic rocks, like in Mistborn of the Limelights.
Limelights are real things.
Oh, really? I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
Yep.
That's where the
Oh,
term
that's
comes
cool.
from.
Didn't know that.
Yeah,
I
no,
just
you do.
assumed he made that up.
Nope.
I did for a while too, but then I looked into stepping into the limelight.
It totally could be like just magic rocks.
Why you gotta ruin my fun?
I mean, don't get me wrong. I totally applaud your scientific approach to this, but it's a fantasy story. Like we can't be sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some of that stuff is really fun to read into, though. Like, I love that you looked that up. I never would have even thought of that.
I was like, huh, this is fun.
That's awesome.
So what else? Sereni makes us another semi-racist comment about Shuden, where she's like, people must like him. Oh shit, I can't remember what the specific line was. But she's like, due to his good breeding or something, he's very polite-mannered.
I don't think that's a racist comment. I think that just says that like his parents raised him well. Like that's how I read it as. Is like you're like when you talk about someone's like good breeding, it usually means like their parents raised them well. Or whoever raised them raised them in a good way, like, to make them like polite and nice.
I just wouldn't have taken that one as like a breeding comment.
I don't know, but the Jindo religion seems pretty cool. Out of all the religions, this one seems like the one that's sticking out to me as being the coolest. I mean, obviously you have like the Shudirith, religion by dominance, and then Kesig and Shukura don't stick out as much. I guess because we spent more time on some of the other ones, but like the Jindo one.
The Jindo religion is Shukesig.
Okay, so that's like the original, and then Koroth and Dorethi came from that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Do you know about Isaac and Ishmael?
Yes.
No.
No.
Okay, so do you know the story of Abraham?
No.
So basically,
you.
God said to Abraham, look toward the heaven and number the stars, and so shall your descendants be. But Abraham's wife Sarah wasn't getting younger, and God wasn't coming through on his promise. And she was getting nervous because she didn't have any children, so she sent Abraham to the bed of her maid Hagar. Abraham and Hagar had Ishmael, and not long after they did, God kept his promise to Sarah, as he had always intended to, and Abraham and Sarah had Isaac. Sarah said to Abraham, "Cast out this slave woman with her son, for the son of the slave woman will not be heir to my son Isaac." And so the sons of Isaac became the Jews, and the sons of Ishmael became the Arabs.
Is that something that has been? Is that a connection you're making, or has that been established that like it's kind of based on that? I'm curious.
It's a connection I'm making. I wouldn't doubt like it's very much what Brandon was thinking, though.
Considering how religious Brandon is, it wouldn't surprise me if he was.
That's cool.
If that's where he might have drawn it from originally, but I mean, but there are also just like a lot of stories. Like that's kind of like how a lot of like different sects of religions happen. Is usually that one of the followers of the religion like branches out somehow. So
It's just, it was a perfect divide from one. I just thought it was interesting.
Yeah, I guess I just think it's cool. Like, this is like the parent religion. Like, this is the OG. You know, that kind of makes it like just way more interesting to me. The one I would want to learn about more.
For a long time, I had this theory that the older a religion was, the more likely it was to be the right one. Because after all, as time goes on, religious ideas evolve and change and grow and are, tainted by different, ideas coming into the fold or whatever. I don't know.
Getting further and further from the source material.
What makes one unclean?
All right, so chapter 15, I guess.
Oh, is that my... Oh, that was the wrong... Shoot. Pause, please. Oh, wait, no, I'm 16. Never mind.
Yeah, this one's me.
Swiggities.
All right, so chapter 15 is a Hrathen chapter. Hrathen lurks above Elantris, contemplating its beauty, as the darkness blinds him to the grime and decay. He's been doing this at night very often. He feels bad, almost, for the Elantrians. Although he views the Sheod as a sickness, he still wants to pretend that they are unholy to win followers for Shudirith. He's soon met by none other than Duke Telri, who, dressed in a conspicuous black cloak, is having second thoughts about working with Fjördel, since hearing Hrathen is the Gjorn who fed the flames of the Duladel Revolution.
Okay, that's one of my favorite tropes of all time. It's just super rich people just putting on a giant black coat just to cover up their rich clothes.
To go meet in some shady back alley.
And their coat is probably still like made of like super rich, like well quality material. Like still like really nice.
I think we get a couple of these scenes in Mistborn too.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess what's happening here is like, yes, Telri wants to get money, and that's kind of separate from his allegiance to the state. So like, he's having second thoughts about Fjördel. But I think, okay, actually, let me back up. I think I misread that a little bit at first. It's not necessarily that he's worried about Kai. He's worried that what happened in Duladel is going to happen here. Like, the serf class, the peasants are going to rise up, and who are they going to come after? The dukes and people like him. So I think he's trying to back out mostly because of that. But Hrathen basically explains that, hey, this doesn't have to be as peaceful as I'm trying to make it by giving you this money and by working with you. Like, Erelon has basically no military except for the wall guard of Elantris, and they don't fight as it is. And we have all these other kingdoms we can draw people from. And he's not even mentioning this crazy, like, Decor monastery with all these crazy, like, fighting monks that we haven't seen that they also have access to. So, to make a long story short, he eventually convinces him to just kind of go along with Rathan's plan. And part of that is getting Telri to, like, pay his men better and to treat them a little bit better. I think as a kind of a way to set him up to become the new king, because they're trying to get Iadon off the throne because he won't back down and embrace Shudareth. Okay. So after that, Rathan pretty much decides that he's going to leave, but as he does, he sees like some Elantrians getting brought back into the city, having tried to escape, and he gets the bright idea of asking the captain, like, "Hey,
who those Elantrians are."
Oh, do we think that was them?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, this is all the same night.
I didn't realize it was like the same night. But he gets
So
oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, set of 3 chapters, like the Reread chapter, the Sereni chapter, and then the Hrathen chapter, they all happen not consecutively. They happen at the same time.
Oh, that's cool. So, yeah, he decides, like, if you get any that are to be thrown back in, why don't you send them my way first for some theological experimenting?
I just want to talk.
And then I found it funny that the coins he pays this guy with have Wern's face on them.
Of course he's gonna use Fjordell money.
There's just something about that.
Do you think every time there's a new Wern, they have to update the money?
Probably. That's typically what happens when, for any society that uses faces on their coins, especially, like, not recent history, but in previous history, especially, like, in ancient Rome, like, anytime there was a new emperor, they would print all new coins with the new emperor's face on them.
I did not know that. I just know we do it modernly with, like in the UK, when the Queen died, they put the King's currency into circulation, but the Queen bills are still good.
Yeah, same thing.
Back then.
Same thing, yeah. Like, the fact that we have, like, Sacagawea dollar coins are also, like, president dollar coins. They're all still worth $1. They might have different people's faces on them, but they're all still the same.
$1 coins?
Huh?
There's Sacagawea dollar coins?
Yes? What do you mean that there are Sacagawea dollar coins? Those ones happened first.
I've never seen.
Anywho.
I've never seen that one.
This chapter just, like, I don't know if anything was really revealed or even if the plot moved forward that much.
Well, we found out for sure that Hrathen is backing Telri because he wants to remove Iadon from the throne and put Telri on the throne instead. So that is something that we learned in this chapter.
Yeah, but that was kind of pieced together from, like, other things. We could
Yeah,
but it's
even Royale knew that in the last chapter.
Confirmed.
I feel like
confirmed.
I feel like this book could have done well if, like, there was a sort of like Sereni has to do, like, the widow's trial. Maybe there's forgetting the term, an act that Hrathen has to do as the new priest of this country, and maybe he has to be doing something. and we get to see a distinction between, oh, the widow's trial, like something from Fjordell, and maybe that allows, some of those Serenity bits to be split up a bit, as well as Harathan's chapter, because I feel like the next chapter we have should be split in two. A lot of Serenities could be split up in more, but like I feel like there definitely needs to be a whole new Harathan story quest that needs to happen here, because we've got ridiculously long Serenity chapter. The pacing is just not the greatest.
The pacing is a little strange, and the names do really run together a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know what y'all are talking about. I got 3 perfectly good chapters.
In one.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they were all titled under one, but I mean,
Like this book is super important to the rest of the Cosmere. Like Elantrians are kind of a thing, so it's just kind of funny that like this happens to be his first book, and even parts of it are a little rough.
yeah, it's okay though.
Yeah, I just can't wait
But
to come
also-
back to this world. Like,
I would say we have to keep in mind as well, like, we are so used to, like, modern Sanderson that,
Yes.
like,
Yeah,
we're complaining about this book and, like, talking about how it's not as good as modern day Sanderson, but it's still a really good book. Like,
Right, and that's
Oh, yeah.
that's well, and that's what I say all the time too. It's like you have to give it some grace. It's the first book, and if anyone else in the world had written it, it would be like a New York Times bestseller or something. Like it's a big deal.
we are
it's
spoiled.
20 year. It's a 20-year-old book.
oh God.
Okay, it's a 19-year-old book. I'm rounding it up by like 6 months.
God.
Like, can you imagine how bad things you were 20 years ago?
Right, it wouldn't be nearly as good as this. And this book is amazing, and it's like super cool. Like the themes that it's trying to tackle, that it is tackling, too.
The part that makes it enjoyable is not necessarily the bad stuff. It's the little bits that sort of over time just kind of add gunk to the wheels. And I feel like Brandon has gotten way better at, preventing that over the years. And we're also not only are we looking at this from modern Sanderson, but we're also, pausing every 5 chapters for a week, and that slows us down, and we get to stop and think and analyze, and that also makes things a little bit slower.
All right, John.
Okay, here we go. So, chapter 16 opens with a scene that can only be described with "Aww." Rayoden is having a memory of when he learned about slavery and how he tried to set his Sion free, and Ain explains how he serves out of love for the people he has chosen, and he's not a slave. He does it because he wants to, and little Tyke Rayoden just doesn't quite understand, but he's he wants his friend to be happy, and his friend is happy, and he's kind of mourning that relationship he was able to have as he now sits in Elantris, a withered kind of hull of what he once was, and he's watching Ain floating around, all kind of not really like fully there. He's like, and he notices that like the lines in his Aeon are like broken and patchy looking, and he's kind of talking to Galadon about it, and Galadon's like, yeah, whatever. So if you could have anything from outside, what would you have? Galadon's like, I want my home. I built it with my own hands, and that's kind of like it. And then Raoden goes and he has like another "aw" moment because he wants the letters that he shared with Serene. Because he was starting to fall in
Oh,
love with her and it was all cutesy wootsy. um
He was excited about marrying her.
he was, and it was all like "aw." Um Uh, but as he's talking about that, he lets slip that Duladel, the Republic, has fallen, and it's been taken over by Fjordell, and now they're all ruled by a king, and the state religion is Shudareth. And he's like, "What? No! The Republic was great. We got to choose our leaders. Who would give that up? That's not fair. No!"
except.
And he's all like, he's really put out by this, and I guess I can't really blame him. Like, if America were to have fallen and like suddenly go back to a feudal state, like I'd be pretty upset too. Like that's my home, right? So we have that moment, and it's just like, thus ends the first complete thought of this chapter.
Just give it 2 months.
So the next chapter in this chapter begins as they arrive at the chapel that they've been kind of using as like a headquarters, and they're like, "Whoa, this place looks amazing!" Because K-Hair has been cleaning it, and he's finally finished, and all the muck is wiped out, and he's found these like intricate carvings and reliefs on the wall, and the floor is like polished to a shine, and the light comes through the windows just right, and everything looks kind of like it's glowing, and we have this moment of like, this must be what old Elantris must have been like, just a little bit. Um, and then Raoden says, you know, the streets and the nearby buildings are all gross too. Like, if we continue to meet here, people are going to constantly be tracking in sludge. Would you mind? And he's like, "Oh, that's a big job, but I think I can do it." And then one of my favorite little like human moments is Raoden asks K-Hair if he knows what the secret is, and K-Hair just smiles and he goes, "I haven't been hungry in days." And then he goes about his
I love that
business.
moment.
Isn't it
I
great? Like,
love
it's just
that.
like the solution to all of their problems wasn't any like magical sweeping like boondoggle doodad. What's the term that they always use for like a
MacGuffin?
MacGuffin? Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was just purpose. Like, you need to have a purpose. You need to feel like a people, and you will be a people. And it's
Pain, loss.
just a great moment, and I think that is probably one of my favorite little moments in the book. Um,
Pain lost its
it's
power when other things became more important.
yes.
Love this moment.
So Kay here, wanders off, and he starts going about, gathering some crew to help him with the streets and the nearby buildings and stuff. And Raoden kind of has this little moment where he kind of sees his own reflection in this new bright shiny marble, and he's like, "Ugh, I don't even recognize myself. Yuck." When who comes clomping up but our favorite Dula, uh, and they talk for a minute about how great a job Kay here did, and then Raoden's like, "Hey, you're a farmer. How what do you think about this seed that I've been like hoarding?" He goes, "Yeah, it's not bad. It's not the best in the world, but it would serve." And Raoden shares his plan to grow crops and have like self-sufficiency arise out of Elantris. And of course, Galadon's like, "It'll never happen, Sul. You're never gonna have these people be self-sufficient. They're all too hungry and crazed." And Raoden's like, "No, I think this is working. I think it's gonna be okay." And then an alarm sounds, and everybody's like, what's going on?" And we find out one of Karada's men is making a move to attack Aenden before Aenden can attack the children. And then we move to the third chapter in this chapter, chapter 16.3, if you will. Um, so Rayoden and Karada kind of are plotting to stop Dash. That's the guy who uh, has decided to just go vigilante on Aenden, Aenden, uh, and just he's gonna go beat him up before they can go beat them up, and they're just gonna have themselves a little war because they want one. So they decide, okay, well, take me to where he's gonna get into the university district, and maybe we can head him off and stop this thing. So Rayoden and Karada and Galadon all go, and they get there and they see, oh, this is a booby trap. Like, they have rigged this building to collapse as soon as people come in. This is bad. And then of course Dash shows up and he's just like, Tally ho! And they start marching in, and I almost said Kaladin, Rayoden is like, stop. And it's a good thing he did, because right as he's about to, like, right as he starts shouting, Aenden, thank you. I'm like skimming my notes trying to find the name. Aenden, who turns out actually does have an axe, is about to swing and knock down a pillar that's holding up, like, it's like the last pillar that's holding up the roof or whatever. And Rayoden calls out to him using his real name from outside the city, Theon. And oh no, how does he know that name? He just kind of stops, like, dead in his tracks. And Rayoden does his word magic and talks him down from being Aenden, this roughshod baron who rules by fiat and, because I say so, and is a raving fool. And he shows them the reliefs that are carved into the buildings that we just found out about. And he shows them the art, and he's like, why would you ever want to be a bully and a warlord when you could be an artist in a city of immaculate art? And he's kind of like, he's like torn for a while, because he's like so, like, grown into his role. But eventually Theon is like, yeah, I'm gonna go study art. But all the men are all still wound up, and they're like, no, we're gonna kill each other, rah! And Rayoden says some hippy dippy stuff about, we have the opportunity to be free of hunger, and we don't have to live based on food and all of that stuff. And have you learned nothing? And apparently they didn't, but they're either confused or swayed by his words. Rayoden's not really sure. We're not really sure. Eventually, Dash, the hot-headed fellow, says, I can't kill this day, and he kind of turns around and stomps off, and that's it. That worked. Hippy dippy talk for the win. But yeah, that is the sum total of this triple monolith. Actually, if you broke the chapter down in that way, they're not so bad. They're like, 10-15 minutes in the audio, together. They're a little unwieldy, but
it did have like a whole 3-act structure, though.
It really did. Like, when I was listening to it the second time, I was like, wow, this is really 3 chapters in one. Like, but they are all same viewpoint characters, so I mean, we'll allow it.
I don't even know where to begin.
Yeah, seriously.
There's a lot of, like, momentum and, like, a series of events, but it's not like the intrigue chapters. There's not, like, a lot of depth, a lot of, like, intricate stuff that you need to know. Like, the big takeaways were Galadon didn't know about the fall of Duladel, so he's either been here longer than he has let on, or he never really was, like, lived in Duladel all that much.
Yeah.
We have yet to pinpoint that down, but something here is fishy. And now we have a new character on our side, Theon, the sculptor.
Yep. We now
what you were saying about...
I was saying, we now have 2 of the 3 original warlords in Elantris on our side now.
Tane has joined the party. Dee-dee-dee-dee.
Yay!
What you were saying about how it's being very, I want to say basic, but very.
It's more direct than other chapters.
I feel like that fits very well. I feel like after all the bashing I've done, I got to give it some praise. That fits perfectly well with the Elantris Raoden chapters, and how everything else, the outside world, is still confusing and takes all those tiny, minute things. But here, like Raoden said, we get to unshackle ourselves and focus on just the bare necessities.
Those simple bare
Bare
necessities
necessities.
of life.
Oh wow.
Exactly. And how they don't need to, have all those things. Like if you want to go clean up the streets and clean up these things, go do that. That'll bring you joy in this painful world. If you want to study art, go do that. You get to do whatever you want, and if you do that, then you forget the pain.
Yeah, because like when you live in a society that's based purely on money, a lot of the motivation for what everyone's doing is just to get money to pay for like food, right? And they don't have to worry about that anymore. They're cleaning the streets because it makes them feel good. I think it was kind of interesting. Like, Elantris has kind of the opposite effect of like The Island and Lost. Like, if you watch that show, everyone gets stranded on this island, and it's like they have an opportunity to be something different, something that they could never have been in their old life. Where here, it's almost like they're removing like all the chaff, all the distraction, and like just giving somebody like, okay, you don't even really have your health anymore. You're just like your experiences and maybe your talents.
What K Hair was doing and how like going over all those small little, hey, I found out this, little nook has like a statue in it or something. Like honestly, that sounds relaxing as heck. And I would love to just turn my brain off and just start scraping out good from something. Am I the
It's
only one
not
that's
as
ever done that?
engaging as you think.
Okay, to somebody who doesn't do that as a living, who does that like to relax, I enjoy it.
I would just want to see all the beautiful architecture. I could explore the city forever, assuming the gangs didn't come after me.
I wonder what I wonder what Raoden would have me do. I'm not an art person. Like, I look at it. That's cool. I like it. Or, that's not for me. But then I'm done. Like, I'm not one of those types of people who could sit and stare at a painting for like an hour and like be enthralled by the nuance of the brushstrokes or whatever. Or like, I can't like listen to a piece of music and appreciate it for its artistry. It's either I like the lyrics or I like the beat and the energy that you get, or I don't care. Like I'm not that like I can appreciate the written word, I guess. Maybe that's my art. But yeah, I'm not an art person. So I wonder what Raoden would have me do. I would be a laborer.
Or reading books.
ReaderWarrior, what do you do? ReaderWarrior, what do you do? I work on computers. What the hell is a computer?
Fancy Aeons, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, try to fix the Aeons. Want me to do what?
Huh.
Okay, you'd be making sweaters for people.
And I'd be editing all the podcasts.
Welcome to our deep dive of Elantris today. Here we're going to be exploring this building. Anybody want to guess what it was?
Swiggity actually knows how to make things.
Yeah.
It's like, you make things for your job, don't you, Swiggity?
Yeah. I have like way more useful skills.
Yeah. You're
So he was,
literally a machinist. Like, you do that. You, like, have the
Yeah.
most useful skills out of all of us.
yeah.
And sometimes I clean gunk off the machines too.
I was gonna be there with a broom at some point. You're gonna be like, I'm designing the new machinations.
No, I would
Um,
probably be working with the kids, though.
Oh, yeah, I can see you doing that too.
Yeah, that makes sense.
okay. I do have some qualms about, like, you called him Dash. Is that how it says it in the audio novella?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought it would be Dashy.
it might have been something slightly different in the graphic audio, but I have not yet received my Dead Tree edition, so I can't really confirm the spellings or how I would have pronounced it. So just
I
going on what I most recently heard, because he's a minor character. Newsflash for y'all: he doesn't come back.
I was really kind of annoyed that it was like a character like that, where it's just for this part of the chapter, we need a character to cause problems. So we're going to have him exist just to do that. He's gonna have he's gonna start off as like this. We need to attack them before they attack us. This is a this is preemptive protection. And then apparently somebody snitches because they know to prepare for the attack. So whoever that is,
What?
Well,
and
it was a
then
trap, so presumably it was leaked to them.
but
Well,
how quickly?
I don't know.
What mole is
It
risking?
doesn't. Let's ask this question. Does it matter? The whole
No,
setup was literally a way to get Raoden and uh,
Taeon.
Teon in the same place at the same time.
and
That
then,
was the function of this. Well, at least the third part of this chapter.
like I think it would have been cooler if maybe we had met Dashi a little bit ago, maybe perhaps in the last road chapter when she's like taking him to the kids. Granted, maybe split up a chapter where we can grow with him a little bit more. Where he's like maybe he's like a teenager where he's trying to prove himself and he's trying to act all confident, and then when he gets there he's scared, and that's why he can try to have the comment, I don't want to kill today. But it's like he's just trying to portray confidence and going on the back foot.
I mean, maybe.
I think it would be better just if we end up seeing him later on in the story. Uh, where, like, he's with the other soldiers later on in the story. Like, something like that. Like, I think that would be better. I don't necessarily think that we have to include him earlier on in the story, but I think it would be better if he was included later on as well. Like, this wouldn't be the only mention of him.
I'm liking this
To be
theme.
fair, he might be mentioned again, but if he is, it's only in passing. Cause I don't remember him coming back. Sorry, Swiggity, you were saying.
You're good. I like the theme of like people kind of taking what they have into a new situation and making it work. Like when Raiden first got to Elantris, he just followed Galadon's advice for a long time, and now he's starting to like not only form his own gang, but he's using his outside experiences to like help people inside. He recognized the sculptor within the madman, and he's like kind of he's bringing his previous skills to the new situation, and that's the same thing that Serene's doing too. Like she's teaching them how to fence, and she's kind of like realizing that this dumb blonde act is only going to get so far. So it's cool that they have to like start becoming themselves again.
Chapter 17.
Aye.
Okay. This one could have been its own part. Serene enters a public dance hall, earning gasps from the other woman as they see her in the fencing garb. A lame in knickers is the actual Earth term. Lukel and the twins have come to watch, along with Deora, chaperoning. Man, I need to read ahead before I say words. Serene is surprised to see all of the women from the embroidery embroidery circle here, and pulls out one of her sabers and explains the names and history of the sport. She cites that Jador made the weapons, but the Dula made it a sport. Tarina, one of the women, is given a Syri foil and used to show how it requires intelligence and speed over pure strength. After getting her class to practice thrusting without ruining their dresses, Sereni sits down with her cousins. Bukel says he won't join because it'll destroy his reputation, while Cais impresses her with fencing terms before fighting with her brother. Sereni watches them for a moment before noticing that Shuden and Eondel have arrived. The other women stop as well, especially when Eondel offers some pointers to Atera, and then the other woman. He explains that in his visits to Duladel, he picked up a few things. Sereni takes this as a challenge and invites him to spar. Before he can decline, she attacks.
I would say
Sorry.
she doesn't so much as invite him to spar as throws the saber at him and tells him to defend
Yeah.
himself, like, and then starts attacking. Like,
Well, she's like, would you like? He's like, no. Oh, surely you just. Here you go. Bye. Before he can decline, she attacks, but Eondel is only on the back foot for a moment before turning the tide. Then, suddenly, he allows himself to let her win and surrenders. She offers him some water and tries to get the women practicing again, but all their focus is now on Shuden's freestyling, later called a Cheishan. Sereni then gets the woman back to work.
I find it hilarious how offended Eondel is at the fact that they're drinking water.
I'm so confused by that. That was so weird.
Well, it's because, like, especially in, like, for, like, modern day and, like, our ways to purify drinking water, like, people didn't drink plain water because
Really?
it wasn't safe. Yeah, you had to boil it so to make it safe, to make sure to kill all the germs out of it. So it was a lot more effort than it was worth. So if you're gonna put in effort, you might as well, like, make it taste better. So, like, hence why a lot of people drank tea, um as
Okay,
well
I
as
never.
or beer.
or beer. um
Every society has swords, donuts, and beer.
True fact.
I didn't realize it was like that because I figured, like, yeah, the boiling water thing, Boy Scouts 101. But it's just so weird to think, like, they're that far back considering, they had these godlike beings, and granted, they did most of the work, but, like, we have seen there's, like, a river running through the town, and they
but
live right next to the water.
that water's not gonna be clean though. It's not clean drinking water.
Okay.
Like, we are blessed to live in a society, reader, where we don't have to think about drinking water, about making sure that
Microplastics.
our water is, like, super clean. Like, we have that as, like, something that is easily accessible to us.
And
This
that
society doesn't have that, and historically most societies, like, that is a new thing to have, like, drinking water.
I see what you're saying, and I agree. It's just there's been no build up to the fact, like, oh, the water's mostly brown, and, like, there's a fairly common
But
level of
even if the
authoring that
water's
you don't need
not,
to show, like, sorry.
I was just gonna say, sorry, I just want to make a comment about your comment about the water being brown. The water doesn't have to be brown for it to not be drinkable
I know, but
without
I'm
you
saying
boiling it.
there wasn't any comment like the water being dirty. Like, there are, like, basic rules, like everybody has water,
But, like,
nobody ever uses the bathroom. You
reader,
don't, unless these things are, like, explicitly said, they happen.
The point of the whole thing was to. I mean, it was meant to be anecdotal. It was meant to be a quaint moment. It wasn't. And it's really it was successful in that. I think, like, it's
yeah.
not, like, inane.
It was. I was just really confused on, why are you drinking water? Well, we boiled it and then poured it between two buckets.
Because that's not in their society. In their society, people don't just drink water. Like,
Okay.
again, historically, people haven't just drank water.
I
Like,
know, but
it's
like
usually made into something else.
they should have said that. Then come on,
But,
Brandon.
Reader, they don't need to
Why,
say
though?
it. Why should they have
Because
said it?
like there, until we're explicitly told like a way thing is different from our world, the only experience we have is
But
based on our world.
but that's my
And
point, Reader. It's not different from our world.
I
Your
know, but like,
thinking is modern day. This is not modern day.
but they made no.
This is not modern day.
I know, but there could have been some line about him worried about it being dirty or something. It was just me being stupid. Okay, I guess I'm not as smart.
But he
No,
was
the
worried
problem
about
is
it.
you're too educated and you know what's going on or what could have gone on, and you're missing it because nobody else did it. It's okay. It's allowed.
Walking through Erelon, Ashley is told about Serenity's day.
Aw, don't be like that.
Okay, okay. They drink some filtered water
Yep.
and then go back to exercising. Okay, it's over. Walking through Erelon, Ashley is told about Serenity's day and wishes he could have been there, saying that it's been quite some time since he's seen Shay Sean. I hate CHSH. They walk past merchants and stop at a Karathi chapel to meet with Father Omine Oduadayahara. She asks him what a
mine.
widow's trial is, and he says that it's meant to be an outwardly show of grief. The more she loved and respected her husband, the more extravagant the trial. It was created by the Elantrians years ago and has become a welcome tradition. Sereni is surprised to hear him speak so fondly of them, and Omin says that just because some priests hate them, God, dummy, doesn't have to. He doesn't believe the Elantrians to be cursed, but simply put in a position where they have to progress. Sereni says that it is strange. Sereni says that it is strange that I don't know why she looks like that. I'm so sorry. It is strange that that looks like an ace that the Bjorn is calling them Svrakas to spread hate, but quickly returns to her original question. A widow's trial is not only meant to be extravagant, but communitorial. He reveals that Raoden's money is now hers and that she can do with it as she wishes. Anything else for this part?
Not for
She
me.
was very excited about the fact that she actually has money because she was like, "What am I gonna do? I don't have any."
He's like, hey,
He's
you're
like,
rolling in it.
"You're literally the second richest person in the country." Like,
Here's your platinum credit card.
yeah.
Ashley waited outside for Serena to return, and when she does, he tells her that Harathan has now become close allies with the Elantrian Guard. Sereni, though confused, realizes she doesn't need to know the why to stop the what, and heads home to speak with her father. End of art. Eventio is very happy to see his daughter again, remarking how badly things have been going. A Jaskari mystery cult had been put down, and the Fjordell ambassador, as well as all of his people, have left. He is scared and his I don't even know what word I was writing there. And his fears grow even more when Serena reveals that Harathan, the Gjorn that caused Duladell's collapse, is there. Serena is offered to be taken back home, but she refuses, stating that she is a princess of Erelon too, and that she was never happy at home unless she was with him or her mom. And even though no one could court a widow, she would be more alone as the too intelligent daughter of a king. She is useful here, and she tries to change the topic to Cain, but Aventio shuts that down instantly. So she asks what he thinks the Wern is up to, and he has no idea, as all of his spies have disappeared, but wishes he could get somebody into the Dakor monastery. Quote, Dakor. That's cool. Rathbor trains assassins. Assassins.
You're just struggling with your words today, Reader.
I know. I'm sorry. Rathmore trains assassins, Fjordell spies, and most of the other simple warriors. Wait, I've read that completely. Rathmore trains assassins, Fjordell spies, and most of the others simple warriors. But no one outside of the Worm's own people know what happens in the Thakor monasteries. Besides, with all the might that Fjordell has amassed, Teod would be forced to surrender or be destroyed if war were to come. Serena accuses him of being as spineless as the Jindo, but he says he will do what he must for his people to live. Eventio asks if she knows why the Worm would be destroying Iadon's fleet, as the official reports claim it to be pirates of Drioke Crushthroat's fleet, but his sources say that it's the Worm ships that cause it. Sereni realizes this is what Iadon was upset about, and that if he loses his money, Iadon will lose his throne. Sereni also pieces together that Telri was in on it, and that she is going to stop Hrathen. She then worries about Eventio and remarks if he/Teod fall, Shu Korath is doomed. For a time, perhaps, her father said, truth can never be defeated, Sereni, even if people do forget about it occasionally. End part.
It's a great quote.
Yeah.
With Ashley on sleep mode, Sereni sits in her bed and ponders what her father told her and how she might have to face the loss of her homeland. Even though she had unpleasant memories tied to Teod and its people, mostly on the bachelor nobles that ignored her, she did not want it to be destroyed. There was a noise, she thought, that seemed to be coming from her room, but she quickly realizes it's coming from a wall, one without any rooms on the other side, and figures it's just the building settling. Sereni rolls over and goes to sleep. Don't have me repeat any of that.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch any of what you just said.
Oh,
I need you to repeat everything.
I was muted the whole time. I don't know why that was so painful. I'm sorry.
That is a good quote about truth, though. The fact that, like, the truth can never be destroyed.
Mm-hmm. Maybe forgotten, but it always finds its way out.
That's because you don't need... Someone doesn't need to know the truth for it to be, like, the truth. That's interesting.
Yeah. Or it can come back about when nobody expects it. Like, Christopher Columbus. Like, after his voyage across, like, he did really bad things. So much so, even, like, the Spanish monarchy said, like, that's bad. And then hundreds of years later, we start seeing him as the guy who founded America. And then now recently we've rediscovered, oh, he was a horrible person. The truth comes out.
That's what I'm waiting for in, like, some of the next Cosmere books that comes out. Specifically the one dropping in December. I'm like, what are we going to learn that's going to recontextualize everything? Because I don't know yet.
That's all I got for 17.
I think you covered it pretty well for as much as was in there.
Okay. Sweet, I believe you have the last chapter.
All right. So that was chapter 18.
Oh, wait, I forgot. I wanted to mention this. I thought it was funny that Ashi didn't want to go in the Karathi temple because the last time that he went in, the head priest kicked him out. So he's like, I don't want to go in. Like, it's fine. Like, we're better just, like, not existing near each other. Like, I can know that they're there and they can know that I'm out here, but we shouldn't be in the same place. I just thought that was funny.
A Giorn, a Sion, and a Shukareth priest walk into a bar.
That was awesome. All right.
Sweetie, that was 17. You've got 18.
So Rathan is eyeballing a fresh Elantrian named Deerin.
Fresh Elantrian.
Ooh,
Even though I think this
the
guy's been in
room
there
is
for a while.
aglow. There are flowers.
Smell that Elantrian scent.
Oh. Ode to death.
The pessimism of hopelessness and the stench of... All right, so he calls in Dilaf, partly just to see his reaction. I love that he's like, because Dilaf is so like filled with rage at the sight of these people. Like he calls him in there, knowing that he's gonna see him and flip out, which he does.
He probably shouldn't have called D-Lop in there. Like, TBH.
No.
It's
Especially
like when you try like a really bad food and you're like, dude, you gotta try this. This tastes absolutely horrible. I gotta see your reaction to it.
yeah.
Because, like, if he hadn't have, then D-Lop wouldn't have known there was an Elantrian in there, and then things later on in this chapter wouldn't have happened.
Like he's just kind of teasing him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, and you don't even know, but I've been using Sions behind your back. So, obviously, Dilaf is notably upset, even calling Deerin by a Fjordell slur, which Hrathen disapproves of. Hrathen explains that he will have Dilaf lead the preaching this evening, and he will close with his logic. I guess the idea is that they're going to try to condemn the Shu-Kuroth priests for giving those affected by the Sheod food and preparing them for Elantris. And Hrathen explains that, like I said, he's going to have Dilaf go first and he's going to kind of close. But after Dilaf leaves, he starts questioning Deerin, the Elantrian. And Deerin doesn't know a whole lot. The things that Hrathen ends up learning are basically that they don't start out bald and splotchy, or they start out with hair, but they have the splotches. That's like their distinctive trait. And also that they don't go mad within weeks like he thought. And there are like gangs in there. So there's more of a society than even he was aware of. And also he's noted how hungry they are. Which is important because he has some sort of plan that might need that specific information. So, flashing forward to the actual preaching that they planned, Dilaf begins going to work. He's preaching like he always does, zealously whipping the crowd into a frenzy. Hrathen lets him go nuts until he brings out Deerin to the stage. And that's when all hell breaks loose.
And that's when the chapter ends. Nothing bad happens at all. He's like, hey, look at this guy. We're going to send him back into Elantris. Thanks for coming on stage. Thanks for showing off how bad you people are. Goodbye.
Oh, no. It was bad. These people were ready to riot. And as Dilaf shouts how the Elantrians are demons, and Deerin himself asks to be burned, Hrathen decides not to let that happen. Because even though Iodon's letting them preach right now, if it turns into bloodthirsty riots, that's going to come to an end pretty soon. So he interjects at a key time in Dilaf's raving, and he's able to kind of steer Dilaf's argument back to where he originally wanted it, against like the Shu-Kuroth, and saying like, oh, we don't have to kill these guys, but we certainly don't have to prop them up either. Because his whole idea is to like make the Derethi seem like a reasonable religion to go to. Not just like this bloodthirsty, angry mob. So they kind of shuffle Deerin away. I imagine Hrathen like calling Dilaf from the corner and just being like, dude, what the hell? What was that?
Is that part of the plan. That's not part of my plan.
It's part of the plan.
I got a 9 cal loaded, ready to fire. Let's go.
And Dilov is kind of like hinting that, oh, but we don't have that much time. And Phaethon, supposedly being the only one who has seen Warren's message, keeps asking himself, like, well, does he know the timeline for some reason? So later, Diren the Elantrian actually does get burned to death by Hrathen, but it's in secret, and it's almost more of a mercy at that point. At least that's the way Hrathen tries to see it, I think.
Because Dilov did like scratch his face either with his nails or a knife or something.
I think with a knife, it talks about cuts along his face, to the point where essentially he was almost hoeyed.
Yeah.
He was just begging for them to kill him because the pain was too much.
Because any little cut as an Elantrian now just affects you for all time.
Mm-hmm.
Which I thought that was just kind of interesting and poetic. Like, he won't do it in front of the people because that would send the wrong message, but he will do it in private. And it's also interesting just to contemplate, like, Hrathen has no problem making this decision. You know, this is like a decision Galadon said they couldn't make back in the beginning of the book. So there's a lot of, like, themes here to do with that.
Mm-hmm.
After he is finished with that, he pulls out his trusty Seond and he contacts somebody. I can't remember if they were in Dula or where they were.
They're like out in the boonies somewhere.
Yeah, it's like some
They're
other.
not in Dula. It's somewhere out in the middle of nowhere.
He's like, have you guys seen The Rescuers?
Yes,
Yeah.
but it's been a long time.
He's like one of those people living out in the swamp.
Is it
Yeah,
Sikla, maybe?
out in the boonies.
Anyways,
Middle of nowhere.
his name's Fortin.
We gotta get it.
And this Fortin guy apparently, like, I guess he, like, smokes weed or something. Like, they brought it up a lot.
He smokes a lot of stuff.
It's, like,
He
talked
was-
about quite a bit.
He was so high, he was floating on the moon, but hey, yo, Gion, what do you want? I just took him from Southern to Jamaican in 2 seconds.
Hey, that happens.
And the whole point of calling him is Hrathen needs a potion of some sort of poison cocktail with specific ailments associated with it.
Chicken, not steak.
And I have to look, like, does it say exactly what he's trying to get it to do?
Nope.
No, it
Okay.
does not.
Just making sure, because I know what he wants it to do, but...
Spoilers.
Exactly. All right, so then that's pretty much it. It says it's going to take 2 weeks.
And he asked for more than one.
At least 2 doses. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Important. So yeah, I know that was kind of a clumsy retelling of that chapter, but
Nah. It's all good.
we got
I
there.
love how one of the first thing Hrathen says to Dilop when he's like, hey, come check out this lantern I've got in my basement is, no, you may not burn this one. And then what does Dilop try to do?
We gonna burn that.
Like, come on.
I feel bad for the captain of the guard because he's like, wait, was I not supposed to? Did I do the wrong thing? He was like,
Yeah.
you said that you wanted the Elantrian back. I'm sorry. Like,
Yeah.
Like, Mr. Gyorn, sir, I'm so sorry. He told me it was because he still wanted it. I did not know.
yeah. Which it's good that Hrathen's like not mad at the guard.
Because most evil characters would, like, bite at anybody's head.
Yeah. Like, I feel like a lot of times people will end up blaming that person, like, as opposed to the person who actually did the thing that was wrong. Like,
It's
fact that
whoever's
D-Law,
easiest.
yeah.
Yeah.
And we saw in the Lathraithan chapter that he feels bad for using the Elantris, and I really like how, like, even though with all of him saying, no, these monsters want to die, so we will not give them that mercy, he still does that. He's like, I'm sorry for using you, I'm sorry you had to suffer. Here's death, maybe. We're not too sure.
But I mean, it's Rathan. He's a lovable villain, kinda.
Kinda. Still burns a man alive.
Well,
The guy's still screaming.
Nothing he won't do for Jadith's empire at this point. He's making personal calls on his work phone. He's crossed a lot of lines.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. Also note with his personal call on his smartphone is that the country bumpkin thinks that he prays to Jadith
right.
to call through the Sion.
And then that gets like,
That guy just
how
thinks
that
like
would even
somebody's
work.
hacking into his phone.
Yeah. Like what?
I want to see a modern retelling of this so bad, where this is just like the complete southern survivalist character living in the woods. It's just like the green text appears on his computer screen, like, hello, I have work for you.
This book is kind of impressive of how it like sticks with third person limited perspective, and yet at every time you seem to know like where the person's coming from. Like what I mean is, because I just read through Dune, and that book will like switch person's perspective like mid chapter, so you always know like who's deceiving who and why and everything as they're doing it. And this book kind of has that too, but without like explicitly telling you. It's just Rathan, like, Rathan knows this guy's just sucking up to him, but he also knows he's kind of dumb. Like, it's just an interesting way of like getting you to think about people's motivations.
Rick Riordan did it first to me, so I kind of like, yeah, I get this, but Rick Riordan did it better. Sorry, Sanderson.
I also like in this chapter that we get to learn a little bit more about the Jeskai mystery, which is another religion in this book series.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that
at
came
least
up.
This one has a different name.
Like 4 times.
It's not Shujeskai.
The country bumpkin is the one who practices the Jeskai mysteries. And they talk about how they like the ceremonies take place at midnight in the dark, like, and it's like
not to be confused with this other religion. Does anybody know which one it always?
About how there are like sacrifices that have like goes along with it as well. It's
and
like,
we saw. Sorry.
Weird. That's
we
it.
saw when Reread told Galadon, like, hey, your religion is gone, they replaced it. But there is the Jeskai mysteries. He's like, that is an abomination.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to ask is it keeps getting confused with another religion.
So there's the Jeskai, there's the mysteries, there's the Jeskai mysteries, and then there's also the Jeskai religion. So the Jeskai religion is the one that the Duladels practiced, and that is separate. The Jeskai mysteries are essentially like an offshoot, like kind of weird, like
Gotcha.
conglomeration of like the Jeskai religion and like other religions. It sounds like that it's just kind of this like hodgepodge.
So they're both called Jeskai, and one of them is Jeskai Mysteries, which is the midnight.
Yeah. Yes. Which is why it's probably confusing. All of the religions have like the same names in this book.
Seriously.
You got the shoe religions, you got the Jesker religions, like
Like, come on.
Which one of them lets
I-
me write cool symbols in the air? That's all I need to know.
none of those religions. The answer is 0.
That's
The answer
probably,
is 0.
well, that explains a lot, actually.
Yeah. Anything else for this chapter set? We talked way longer than I thought we would.
Well, these were kind of long chapters. I mean, some of them were anyway.
Yeah.
So
And-
that's a thing.
I
Also,
feel like
we generally talk longer than we think that we're going to. So, like,
True.
you say that, reader, but, like, this happens almost every time. So,
But we haven't even gotten to the spoiler section, though.
I always feel like I've said way too much and yet not nearly enough.
Okay. Well, next time we're going to be covering chapters 19 to 23, but it is time to head into the spoiler realm. So if you have not finished this book, the entire series, or potentially the entire Cosmere, then we recommend that you stop here because it is likely that we will talk about everything and anything. But if you are up to date, feel free to stick around because it is likely that we will bring up details you may have missed or plot threads still yet to come. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, star, heart, or whatever it is on this podcast, and don't be afraid to comment your own thoughts and predictions. We would love to hear from you. You can find us at cosmereconnectionspod@gmail.com, at @CConnectionsPod on Twitter. We even have our own Facebook group. But if this were this part, then my name is ReaderWarrior, and I've been joined by Swiggity Swoo,
Thanks for coming along.
Jump,
Stick around because we about to make a mess.
and Kay.
have a good one.
Don't forget, there's always another connection. And we're back! Spoilers!
Whoa!
Okay, chapter 14. This was the first Serenity chapter, in which we've got Serenity at the embroidery club. Then I have a bit of an angst when Serenity always keeps calling the foil of the Syri a sword, because I've known a few fencers, and they like would berate me if I ever said, "Hey, can I touch the sword or can I try the sword?" They're like, "It is a foil, and you will refer to it as such."
I mean, that's like, hey, get in the car, we're gonna go somewhere. It is a Ford, and you shall call it a Ford. It's basically that. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
As long as it's not a Cybertruck.
did you see the story of how raccoons were literally trying to break into them because they look like dumpsters?
That's
Oh, jeez.
hilarious. I did not see that, but that is so funny.
I don't know if
They
it's true
kinda
or
do.
not, but I laughed.
I can believe it. I can believe it.
They look kind of like dumpsters, so I don't know.
Mhm.
You know. But back on topic.
How do you think Ashley tried to speak with the Seons in the Seon extranet, or did he like, float over the one and be like, "Hey, how's it going?"
I wonder if he at first he probably tried the Xeon like extranet, and when that didn't work, I would guess he like went over and like actually like tried to talk to them. That would be my guess. Is that it would be both.
Yeah. I'm wondering what it's like in the extranet. Does it like, sorry, that call cannot be made, Or is it just like ring nonstop, or like
It might just be that they don't respond. There's like no one responds. They just don't get a response.
you hear a click that they pick up, but there's nothing? Um, and I like, there's a point where Ashley refers to their god when talking to Serenity and the humans. Like the Seons have a different god.
Oh, that's cool.
Well,
That's
yeah, the
interesting.
Seons don't believe in like Shukoroth or like anything like that. It wouldn't surprise me if the Seons believe in like the god beyond or something similar.
Or just like Elantrians as gods, because
Yeah.
you know.
I don't
Or
know.
maybe just like devotion.
Or they just don't think of anything as gods because they are part of a god.
I've just always wondered how much they do know. Like, how self-aware.
Yeah. Because like the Spren are like told, hey, here's the history, and here's kind of how everything happened. We know Devotion and Dominion died before like anything happened.
Yeah, but Spren exists on the cognitive realm before the physical realm. We don't know if the same is true about Seons.
True.
And I kind of doubt it, or although that is probably how they do their little like walkie-talkie routine.
Yeah. And it might be how Seons are formed. They might be formed in the cognitive realm and then brought into the physical realm somehow.
Entirely possible.
My head
Because
canon is. Sorry, go ahead.
Seons, you're good. Because Seons are, in fact, little, like, splinters of Devotion and Dominion, and since we know that Devotion and Dominion's power has been shoved into the cognitive realm, it wouldn't surprise me if that power coalescing together created a Seon.
But would they have coalesced together, or would they have made their own separate ones?
Well, we know, well, I mean, like, the fact that the power is there, like, the
Yeah.
power just existing. Like, I'm not saying, like, Devotion and Dominion's power combined together to make the Seons, because we know that's not true, because we know the Seons are of Devotion, and the Skays
Gaze sounds right.
are of Dominion.
Yeah. I'm wondering if maybe the shard of devotion condensed into like a splinter of devotion, and that one is creating, and that's acting sort of like the Stormfather, and that's creating little mini ones.
I guess.
I doubt that Odium would have left a big enough splinter of power to do anything.
True. Okay.
I have so
Then
many
you got the
questions
ball.
about Seons.
Sorry.
So,
So do we.
you know, because when it comes to this whole book, like that is something that's just like so interesting, and like, you know, this is big spoilers for like total other books not even close to this book, so just you're warned now. But like at the end of Rhythm of War, when Shallan finds a Seon,
In the cognitive realm too.
yeah, that's just kind of like making you wonder, like, okay, are these things like the universal cell phone? Are people just using them?
Yeah, that's kind
Yeah.
of what it sounds like.
Literal cell phone.
Like, that's cool.
Yeah.
And then why do they have? Why does every Seon have its own Aeon? Like, there's no Aeon for Seon. They all have their own individual. That never made
I
sense to
don't know.
me.
Why do all Spren look different?
I don't know.
Now, wasn't it your theory that the Seons existed before the Aeons, and that they made the Aeons because they knew about the Seons?
I may have postulated that. It sounds like something I would say.
I wonder if like it was like a Pokemon-esque thing where all they could say was like the Aeon name, and then later they learned to speak English.
That's
That
just silly.
Ayin, Ashi, Ashi.
That's funny.
And then there's the death one nobody wanted to look at.
But like, just knowing that from a wob, knowing that you can like bring one of these into the state of being a shard blade somehow.
I mean, it makes sense. You can coalesce them into physical power. That doesn't surprise me.
Like, it kind of makes me get this impression of them being just like maybe super underutilized or super like under like misunderstood, you know. There could be like so much more potential of these things.
Here's the question: what does Devotion's God Metal do?
Yeah.
We'll never know. Brandon will one day just randomly drop. Here's a chart of every single God Metal.
Yeah.
Just on
Here's
a
what-
random Tuesday.
Yeah, here's their allomantic, ferrochemic, hemalurgic, light. I don't even know what else. Combination. All their
know what-
different powers.
You know what day that will be? That will be the day he releases the last book of the Dragonsteel series.
Can't keep getting
God,
away
hurt.
with this.
That's the final
So-
chart.
In other words, I'll see you in 30 years.
Anything else on sales?
That's all right.
Then we got the ball with Serenity, in which I think I got proof Hrathen does not have a helmet. Because when Serenity looks out and notices the armor, she comments specific things, but no helmet, when referring to his height. And you would think the helmet would kind of be the top of a height.
I mean, that's pretty thin.
But he talks about like his shoulder pads and the spikes, but like no helmet, no.
I mean,
suit,
I
no
agree.
nothing.
Probably no helmet, but I don't think that you can say that's proof. It's at best evidence.
Okay, I'll take that. And then you got the ball chapter, and then Serenity goes home and finds out that hey, her ex-husband, fiance, was a
Husband.
zombie.
Husband, they're married.
But he wasn't. He's married.
Still technically married.
But, her ex-husband, Raoden, was lurking about.
Her zombie husband. He's not ex. He's still technically her husband.
But then, if he's still alive, then the death clause doesn't count.
Unless you
But
were
he
zombie.
became an Elantrian, so he did die. He's a zombie. He died and came back to life. Hence, still her husband. Because he's...
What does the death to us part mean?
We don't know
that's
that
part of
they...
their marriage ritual.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else in chapter 14?
No.
Okay. Chapter 15. Really short Hrathen chapter. And honestly, nothing really happens except for the brief comment of the monasteries.
Right.
Yeah. Is this the chapter where it's commented that Hrathen had spent some time in the Dakhor monastery? One of these chapters it mentions.
Oh
I
yeah.
believe
remember
it was
which
this one.
He's got like
Yeah. I
marks
believe
on
it
his
was this
arms
one.
from that time, apparently.
Yes, it
Yeah.
was this one. He had wounds
Yes.
that beneath all the armor.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Scar no one would ever see. I keep them too well hidden. Very Twilight.
Which is not really a scar, it's just deformed bones.
Which makes you wonder, like, how much are they really deformed under there to be able to see it through the skin? Like,
I don't
that's
want to
got to
think
be
about
some
that.
pretty serious bone shaping going on there.
What are they doing to the bones?
Oh,
Growing
did you
them,
forget
twisting
this?
them, deforming them.
I
Turning them into
remember.
shapes, turning them into like their own
There's a
version of
cube. There's a triangle.
aeons.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
What?
So that
Yeah.
they can then channel the power through them.
I think it's kind of meant to be like an external internal thing where the Elantrians can do an external power while the Dakor do like an internal augmentation.
I think it's also just like that the difference between devotion and dominion, like the fact that
Yeah.
dominion is like you have to kill someone to be able to access the power. Um,
Yeah, that kind of makes
Yeah.
sense. Like you devote yourself to learning so you can draw the aeons, and then you make your like personal dominion the place of the power
Yeah.
when you change your bones. But that makes me wonder if like a Khandra could just whip that up.
I think there was a comment like Contra would find Dakor bones tasty or something.
Very interesting.
Let me see. Dakor. Bone growth. Let me just scroll down to
Cosmere bone growth.
Okay, I gotta find the word.
I just love that there would be multiple characters who might have that ability.
Chandra, Dakor, bone growth. If a Contra got a hold of those bones, yeah, they would get the abilities. It would take more than just the bones, but that would be a big part of it.
Oh, cool.
That's cool.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Do we want to keep going?
Sure. Okay, then we got chapter 16 is next. Yep. This is the Raoden chapter, the only one of this episode. So, Raoden comments like he wanted to break the bond. Is that not something he could do?
It kind of sounds like Ash has to, or the Sion in this case. Ayin? Is that the Sion?
I mean, yeah.
Um, it sounds like he has to be willing to. He is a willing partner in it. In breaking the bond. At least that's kind of the sense I got from it.
Wonder what
I
would
was also
happen.
wondering. Yeah, and I'm wondering, like, considering we know, like, Spren need to be bonded or else they lose their cognitive function, maybe there needs to be a second person there to immediately bond the Seon?
But we know that there are unbonded Seons.
True.
So,
Like in modern times?
yeah.
Yes. We serve those he loves, we say. He says, devotion.
I wonder if the unbonded ones work fine if the door is fixed, but the state it's in now is why they're just kind of crazy.
But I don't think the door is fixed. Like, what do you mean by fixed?
Well, so like, whenever someone gets struck by the Shaod, like, I don't exactly know what's happening, but it feels like the power's trying to flow through them and it just can't. And
Correct.
that seems to have the effect of like making their Sion go crazy. So like if the door is able to flow like normal, would it be fine for a Sion to be unbonded in that state? But like right now it would need a bond that it can't. Well, no, because people are bonded even if they don't have the Shaod.
So would a Seon that's bonded to, like, an ordinary human, would it be going insane right now?
I guess that's the question I'm trying to get at.
No. Well, we can tell based upon the fact Raoden's had a Seon.
We also know that Ashy is
Ashley,
gone.
go.
But if the bond was broken, that's the question.
I don't think so. I don't think the Sion would go insane if the bond was broken. But I do like the implication that we have in this chapter is that the Sion has to be an active and willing participant to break a bond or to change a bond.
Why is it that sounds tied to Elantrians have to update their Aeon then, whilst Ashy does not?
What do you mean?
Well, Ayin is missing the new line, right? That's why partially why he's insane.
I'm guessing it has to do with the connection between the person who has the Seon and the the Shaod happening to them. I think that the Shaod is what messes with the bond with through the connection between the person and the Sion. That connection makes it so that the Sion something happens to the Sion.
Which is very likely. It's just weird that since the Aeons and the Seons are tied together, why is it the Seons don't get updated when the Aeon needs updated?
Probably
Because
because
the
this
Sion's Aeon isn't the one that is animating them, so to speak. Like, I mean, it is. It's like part of their being, but because they have that bond, and the person that they're bonded to is stuck, and it's stuck because of the Elantris Aeon, they get stuck in that sort of halfway point as well.
Does that imply that the Seons? Remember when we were going to stop talking about Seons? Does that imply that the Seons, because the Elantrians are constantly getting renewed with magic, and basically that's why all the old Elantrians turn into the Sheol as well, because their supply runs out. Does that imply that the Seons aren't getting a refresh of investiture?
I think so.
Maybe, I don't know. We don't really know for sure
Yeah.
any of this. Like, we're just kind of
Right.
spitballing based on how we understand investiture to work.
But like that,
Yeah.
that is how it feels though. Is like the Elantrians just, it's like their body changed to now. Oh, instead of needing food and sleep, you need investiture. But don't worry, you have a constant supply flowing through you. Except now you don't, because the chasm.
Yeah.
Right, it's like now there's just enough to kind of like prevent them from dying, but not enough to keep them healthy and hale and like magical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, there was another say online where Rayoden and Serena, when they were talking, they would keep the link open, and that just kind of made me go, huh.
No, you hang up. No, you
Yeah,
hang
exactly.
up.
Meanwhile, Ash is just like, oh god.
Ashley and Ian are in like the action net, just like banging their heads against like the wall.
I'm never gonna get any sleep.
Do you think like they have like their own private conversation while they're being used?
Probably.
that would be a great question. Maybe. Be interesting to think about.
Um, let's see. Then we've got Kahar, and I really do love like his moment where Rayoden's like, "Hey, did you figure out the secret?" He's like, "Working is sure is fun, isn't it?" Um, then we got Dashi and being like, "Hey, we gotta go kill them." And then we've got uh, Tane and Aiden switch. Everything is food. And then
This is when all to what's his face's followers end up switching to uh the third guy.
they do.
Mhm.
All of them?
Yep, most of them.
Mhm.
The majority of them end up switching to the third guy who's like crazy.
The girl.
The girl?
Yeah, the little crazy girl. The third gang leader.
Oh, is it a girl?
Yeah, it's a little girl. It has a wig.
I don't remember
Oh, I
that.
forgot about that.
Yeah.
She's basically a child. Everybody reveres her because she has hair, because it was a wig.
Oh,
Nothing
yeah.
creeps me out. Nothing creeps me out more than a little girl that's just, you know, cute. I hate that part in horror movies when like the little child starts to sing in the dark hallway.
See, I just hate every part of horror movies.
Anything else for 16?
No, I'm sorry.
17. What?
I didn't have anything for 16.
Get back. Yeah.
Yeah, I had nothing.
We're moving on. 17. This is we got Sereni's, public class with fencing.
Oh,
Apparently,
I had a question about Sean. Just the name of it sounded very. It doesn't sound like any other like name in this part of Cell. It sounds more similar to like the names of things in the Rose Empire, which I thought was so.
isn't he
Was just
from? Isn't the Rose Empire the source of Jindo?
is it? Mm-mm.
Sheishon has
If I
specific ties to the land of Jindo, like all cells magic. Sheishon decrease in. Oh, it's an actual magic?
yeah, it's a magic. Oh, did you forget that? Yeah.
I didn't know it was a magic.
Yeah, he uses
Hence
it
the
in the
glowing
like
fists and stuff.
yeah, in the final battle he's got like glowing fists and shit. And he like hits a bunch of people. Does a good job about fighting off the decor monks.
JA Dorians are ethnically Jindo, while Dula peoples are both Jindo and Aeonic. The people of Maipon, part of the Rose Empire, are distantly related to Jindo.
Okay.
Then you've got the
So
part
maybe
where
there is a little bit of a connection there? Like a distant connection?
probably
Okay.
I
Interesting.
totally forgot that he had magic fists.
You forgot that there was a third magic in this book?
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
Well, that's not including the Jessica mysteries.
That's not magic. That's just evil.
We
It's
draw the
evil
line at human
magic.
sacrifices.
I mean, they are sacrificing a person on an altar, which does involve driving a metal spike through their heart.
Yeah, that's true.
Mm,
And you have to kill somebody to get the core magic.
well, then you could just drive that metal spike into someone else.
So, what have we learned today, class?
That's
Chemology is alive
sacrificing.
and well on Cell.
Sacrificing innocent lives is magic. The new My Little Pony offshoot. Then we've got the part where Ashy, walks Sereni to a church and then waits outside as Sereni questions the priest about what a widow trial is. Ashley comments, it's been a long time, and that Seons live quite a long time. Which implies, like, Seons do die. Or is this sort of like it's like, oh, we've never actually died, we're just really old, and nobody can really call us out on how old we are because we're that old?
Maybe.
Okay.
I know he said he has a long memory. But did he specifically say they die?
He did.
No.
He
Okay.
did not say they died. He said they live long lives.
Okay. I see where you're getting at with that.
Yeah. Which is that implying death, or is that just sort of we've been alive since the dawn of this planet?
I You want to know what I think? I think that um they're probably so close to Spren in that way. Like a Spren, if the bond breaks, goes kind of insane, but isn't really dead. There's just like a dead eye. But then also like um it looks like maybe from Sunlit Man you could also just like absorb a Spren, and that would be the same thing as killing it.
I kind of like the idea of doing something different, where maybe every few hundred years they have to like go to a factory and get like turned off, turned back on again, updated, and like it's a new personality, but it's still the same Aeon, or maybe it's the updated Aeon. Like maybe the battery runs out that we were talking about, like their little power reserve.
I don't think that the Aeon, I know we were talking about this earlier, but I don't think the Aeon actually has anything to do with how the Sion works. I think the Aeon is separate in a way.
But
Like
then
their
why is
name
it
or
you can
something?
only have as many Seons as there are Aeons in the alphabet?
Because everyone's got to have a different name.
Everybody knows you can't have Junior.
Yeah,
I just
obviously.
I kind of feel like it can be seen as this is just another Spren, so I would think Brandon would want to do something different. Or if
Well,
I was in his
technically, he
shoes.
made the Sions first,
Yeah.
though.
Or if I was in his shoes, I would want to do something different. Um, we got Ashley waited outside for Serene to return. Uh, then, she runs off. I don't understand the point of that part.
Hmm.
Uh, then you've got the cell call with her dad, in which you get the slight hint about Crush Throat, and how he's like, "No, I've got it on pretty good authority. It was not Crush Throat." How's Uncle Cain, by the way?
Except for the
Still,
fact that he aggressively does not want to talk about Tian.
yeah, but he knows where he is though.
Oh, yeah.
He's got his
Because
daughter.
Serene tries to ask him about him, and he's like, nope, we're not talking about him.
Not gonna do that. Um,
Which,
we learned
I'm
about
trying to remember, he stepped down, didn't he? Cain?
Cain went on
Kian?
like parties. It's like the tale of the oldest brother going out to go celebrate and do all stuff, and then the younger brother had to step up more so
Yeah.
than the older had to step down. And then when he comes back, everybody's like, "Oh, you're the king," and he's like, "I don't want him to be the king. I'm supposed to be the king."
Yeah, but
Uh,
he, like, chose to step down and, like,
I'll
leave,
check.
didn't he?
I'll check.
If I remember correctly. I might be
Uh,
wrong.
I
I could
thought
be wrong. I can't quite remember. So,
I thought
uh,
Evan Teod kind of like gave him the old boot.
yeah.
Because a minor crisis happened to occur at the same time as their father's death, Eventio found himself filling the role of king and was crowned while Cain was away on a trip. When he returned, he furiously demanded the crown back. Eventio refused and banished him. Wow, that
Okay.
really jumped really quick.
Dang. Okay.
We slightly learned about the different monasteries: Rathbor, Fjordell, and Dakor. Which, as annoying as this book is with words, Dakor is good.
Rathbor is also a pretty good, cool name.
Yeah. Um, then we've got the scene where Serena hears, Iodine sneak away to kill off somebody.
A maid. Because that's who he's been killing off.
Anything else for 17?
Could call out like those little foreshadowing spoilers are easy to miss, but that's exactly what that was.
Especially if you don't remember.
Yeah, I read this once, like probably 2 or 3 years ago now, and all this stuff's coming back to me.
Yeah. Chapter 18. So we had commented before that when Dragon was on that the blood is not congealing inside their body, correct?
Correct.
That they're still bleeding.
Mm-hmm.
But then
No, they're not bleeding, but it's not congealing, it's not moving. It's frozen in stasis.
okay. But then we see this Elantrian kind of show off like a deep cut he has. So like
Yeah, but the cut doesn't bleed.
so is the blood just like not pouring out? Or
No.
like does all the blood pour out and then there's just like nothing left?
No, there's no blood. The blood doesn't move.
But like you open it's
The
still
blood
liquid,
doesn't
right?
move. No, it doesn't move. It is
doesn't
in
e-
stasis. Everything in their body is in stasis. They don't need to breathe. Their heart's not moving. So, like, what would be moving the blood?
I thought at the
Well,
beginning
like,
with the kid Carl, he's
it's
not
still
bleeding, but blood is just leaking out.
No, there's no blood.
the question that I'm having is whether or not the blood actually dries, because like
There is no blood.
Well, there is, but it's just
There
like
is.
it doesn't move. It doesn't come out. It's like stuck.
because
Essentially, the way that I see it is that their body is essentially in a stasis from the middle of the transformation. Like I think the blotches, at least this is what I think of it as, is like that the blotches are the start of that transformation to becoming an Elantrian. Their skin starts to change color because it starts to change into the gray silver color, but it doesn't like it gets like stopped. And so because it didn't finish the transformation, the body is kind of kept in stasis. So when anything happens to them, their body can't heal, it doesn't change. It's not nothing in their body is changing.
We know they like eat food, use the bathroom.
But they don't
So,
need to eat food.
okay, but they don't. But they still, when they eat the food, they still go to the bathroom. So things like internally are still working.
Do they go to the bathroom?
Either that, or you got like the Spider-Man scene from Marvel Zombies.
I just want to say, do they go to the bathroom? Do we know that they go to the bathroom? Is it ever stated?
Okay,
I'm just asking.
Elantrian bathroom.
Oh jeez. No, they can't because they don't eat. No food in, no poop out.
they sometimes
But
do
if they-
eat.
Yeah. What about all the people who like steal food at the beginning?
Or all those people who ate those books.
I don't know.
That wouldn't have been fun to pass.
Okay, I can't find anything on those keywords. but my thought process was, even though blood is not pumping, it's still like a liquid that's still, there. And if you were to reveal it, like,
But
if you
we
get
know
like a
for
hose,
a fact, but we know for a fact that when Elantrians are cut, they don't bleed.
do we know that, or is it just Brandon not
Yes.
able
Yes,
to?
we do.
Yes, it's stated in the books that cuts don't bleed, they don't heal.
In these chapters, Dilaf does cut Deeren in front of the crowd
Okay.
to display how he doesn't bleed, trying
Okay,
to make the comparison that
In my mind, I was putting it as the
He's a
blood
demon.
had emptied out. So, like, do they have no blood at all?
Where would the blood have gone?
It's investiture now.
Well, do Elantrians bleed? Does Raoden bleed after he gets turned into an Elantrian?
No.
No, I meant full Elantrian at the very end.
Oh, that I don't know if he gets cut at the very end. I don't know if we've seen any, like, fully transformed Elantrians get cut, so cannot confirm.
I feel like we definitely needed a couple chapters where like a lot happened but nothing to really talk about, so that we could just kind of like shoot the shit of the basic stuff in Elantris.
Yeah. Instead of a lot that nothing really happened. So now we can just talk about anything.
Yeah, like all our just general
At
questions.
length.
Um. And you got Deloff, making his, hey, this is an Elantrian I
Did you
captured.
just decide to change the subject?
Well, I figured we were done. I admit I'm wrong.
Oh, I
I
didn't
admit
hear
I'm
you
wrong.
admit that you were wrong. Sorry.
Okay. Oh, I'm
He's
so
just
sorry.
kind of trying
Miss
to slide
K,
that under the radar.
Yeah,
Miss K, I apologize. I'll go sit in the corner for my 5 minutes. When's nap time?
I
It's
want
coming
fruit
soon.
snacks.
You guys convinced me. I was just, in my mind, I think the blood is, I don't know. They say they don't bleed. It's just, but they don't explain anything else.
They say they don't bleed, so they don't bleed.
But they get bruises, so therefore there is blood.
Do they get bruises? Do they act, does their skin actually bruise, or do they just feel where they hit themselves?
They get bruises and splashes, don't they?
I think this is something more magical than we're giving it credit for. Like, if you get cut by a shard blade, your eyes burn out of your skull. And that, to me, is not just like, oh, your body lost its connection to being alive. Like, that's like a magical, like, side effect, The blood not leaking, like, there might be a pressure differential there that should make it, like, squirt out, but, like, magically it's just not happening, I guess.
Okay. I'll take just cool magic looking. That's what I was looking for, Kay. I wasn't analyzing it. I was looking for an answer.
I gave you an answer. You didn't like my answer.
Your answer was, it doesn't say he does.
It in fact says it doesn't bleed. I want to point out that it says that they don't bleed.
But why?
Okay, we can continue on.
Okay. Deloff shows off the Elantrian that he captured.
That is not bleeding. Sorry,
That is
continue.
not.
Oh, here we go.
This is going to be so much fun at Nexus. You got Harathan, mercy killing the Elantrian, in which their Bible is literally called the Do Dareth. I thought that was absolutely hilarious. You want to learn how to follow religion? Well, do Dareth.
Never do Dareth, kids. Not even once.
And then, the Seon that Harathan used, we never get its Aeon or its name. But this Seon could be featured in a potential Elantris sequel, possibly even as a viewpoint character after bonding with Adain. Which, I don't remember bonding with Adain, but somebody at Coppermine does.
I don't think that happens in this book.
This was at the bottom, little trivia section of.
It's probably
literally
like word of Brandon that like he's when talking about the sequel series. That's my guess. Is where that comes from.
By the way, it's literally under Harathan. Sion is the link name. Let me find the specific one. Oh, Elantris annotations. Let me pull those. Here we go. A side note: I'm planning to see on here to make an appearance in the sequel. She would be Adain's own Sion, and he would probably be the hero of the sequel, along with his brother and sister. For those of you who don't think I didn't deal enough with the Sions in this book, the sequel would have a strong focus on them. In fact, I'm tempted to make the Sion's viewpoint character. However, that would bump me up to 4 characters.
Oh no, 4 characters.
Yeah. Which wouldn't let me use the character triad system.
Which he's already set up with the first Elantris book series, so I get it. So that makes sense. He's like, I don't want to mess up my triad characters stuff for Elantris. Because he likes to keep
Except when it comes to
things similar.
Except in like the final Sanderlands parts where we'll just randomly jump to a character we've never, had a viewpoint from.
He's gotten better about that.
Yeah.
The Sanderland is better though. Is like reasonable.
I still don't forget about you, Wallen.
Oh.
I never will.
By the way, one of the characters was named Warren. Maureen.
Mm-hmm.
Not to be confused with Warren the Skybreaker, which has 2 R's instead of 1.
Yep, completely different characters.
Absolutely. That's all I got.
All right.
Okay.
All right, that's it. Are we done? Did we do
Yep.
it?
That will just go. Thank you so much for joining us in our Rabbits of Predictions. This has been Cosmere Connections, and we hope to see you next time.
Jennifer's like an hour on the audiobook. I was like, what is this? When I listened to it today, I looked at it, I was looking at it, I was like, did I really pick an hour-long chapter? It's like, why did I do this to myself?
Yeah. This book, I hesitate to get into it before we're really in the episode, but I'm struggling a bit. Between Shudirith, Shukiseg, Jadith, Jindo, Shindo, Shiloh Buff. I can't. I'm having a hard time.
Do it.
Actual cannibal Shia LaBeouf.
Like, I feel like if all of the names are categorized and I know everything, but it's taking its toll.
Especially if there was a more direct here's how the religion broke down. We have Kelsier shows up and here's all the metals, here's what they all do. And we spend one long chapter on that, and then nothing else comes close to that.
Yeah. At this point, if you're gonna have different religions, they need to have specific superpowers associated with them for me to care.
What do you mean specific superpowers? One is mind, one is love, and one is domination.
Those are all superpowers in their own right, that's for sure.
Yep, clearly.
You will be dominated.